Hey, hey, welcome to episode 4, where we're going to talk about interconnectivity. And yeah, this is reversed, so it's hard to straighten. There we go. Um, yes, we're going to be talking about interconnectivity. If you're on here, say hello, tell me where you're watching from. And if you're watching on the replay, you can do that as well. So, also please like, comment, share if it resonates. But I wanted to come on. This one might be a little different. I don't know. We'll see. It's talking about, again, things that I have been recognizing, noticing throughout the week that felt good to share with you guys. And yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Please share your thoughts, ideas, feelings about this. Um, so basically, I wanted to tap into the idea of us and our interacting with other people, co-creating with other people, um, being in relationships or relation with other people. Um, just it seems like there's been just a lot going on through my fields. I don't know, the last few weeks. I told you guys about, the energy coming through and all the different things going on. And yeah, while I'm not sharing like every aspect of each thing, and there's just lots of different people and relationships, friends that I've interacted with and had experiences with. So I just wanted to bring up some things that resonate with me. When it comes to sharing things generally, I want it to be something universal that we all can tap into. And there's parts of it that make sense to all of us, no matter what you're living through, what situations you're in. That being said, not everything I will say will resonate with like every situation you're in. It's really um, being connected to other people is a very intricate experience of knowing, what to say, how to say things, when not to say things, and yeah, so I just wanted to get into that some. So first of all, I mean, most of us probably already know this, but um, we all are different here and we're all going through different things. We've all lived out different circumstances, different experiences. We have a different set of feelings that are attached to different thoughts. And, there's always the programming and the distortion that, I've discussed somewhat in the last podcasts. So there's a lot that goes into this. And even these, like, we were talking about fields and bodies last time, and so even there's differences within our physical makeups in these like physical bodies, that we have. And then also so many different factors that go into that. There's your genetics, there's, the environment you live in, there's the things you consume, there's the things you put on your skin, there's the air we breathe, there's environmental factors that we experience as well. So there's so many different things that can go into relating. So we all can be very different, yet there are similarities and that we can find with different people. And sometimes you are not going to understand somebody else. We can try. I am someone who, throughout this lifetime, my whole life, I've always tried to be very empathetic and understanding to other people, um, possibly to a fault at times, and also not always factoring in my own um, wants, needs. But some of that is working out the programming that I've um, have in this lifetime, and probably goes back to other experiences in lifetimes, time, space, all the different things. So um, there's a lot to recognize as you're doing this. So I just like we were talking about going within yourself, knowing your own energy, your own um, just getting to know yourself, your thoughts, your feelings, watching them, observing them is always key. And especially when you're interacting with other people, it's so important to stay humble and to be questioning yourself as you go. While, yes, we're also looking at other people and trying to understand them, and it's really important to be recognizing what's going on within yourself. And so there are times where it's really important for us to be in our own energy and our own sovereign energy, and to recognize when, hey, I need a little time to myself, or, um, you know, there's times where we need to be on our own to process some things or to integrate things. Hence why, like I said last week, I didn't come on for a few days because there was just so much going through that I definitely know it's important to integrate things, and to wait for them to make sense to you. And if they don't make sense to you, that's okay. Wait for it to pass, because eventually you get some information about it, usually. And if you don't, it's not time for you to know what that means. And that's okay too. Um, but yeah, just being within yourself and noticing what's going on with yourself is key. And then another interesting one that I've noticed about myself, and also some of my other friends that I've been connecting with, is we've been recognizing how just we're not attached to the same things like we used to be. There's a lot less need for attachment. And I personally find when there's less attachment, then life actually is much easier. There's less, I mean, you're still in your loving space. I don't want to make it sound like you're like bypassing things or ignoring things, but you just recognize when some things aren't helping you and they're keeping you in like a suffering or in a mode of like victimhood sometimes. When you're being reactive rather than being open to just let go of stuff and really look at what's going on, whether it's has something to do with you, and or it could have something to do with the other person or the group, or it could be both. Usually it is. You hear people say there's usually 3 sides to a story. There's like your side, their side, and then, what really happened. So it's important to keep that in mind as well. But yeah, so I just wanted to bring that up about the attachments. Or not being attached to outcomes sometimes, not really having expectations, just being in the moment, being present is I mean, that goes for everything, but yes, definitely when you're relating with others as well, because I recognize in the past, how I have, when you have those expectations, it's not fair to the other person. And um, a lot of times things don't work out the way you expect them to or you want them to. I mean, rarely do they ever. Not if you're attached to them. I'll just put it that way. It's almost like a little life lesson that comes up and just, like kicks you in the butt if you're not careful. So just that might be another fun one to pay attention to when you're observing yourself and what you're doing. Do you have expectations? Do you have um what is your intention behind things? And which brings me to my next point of when you're interacting with others, like try to have no expectation. I mean, obviously, there's got to be, depending on what you're interacting with them about, there's things that you may need to talk about or may need to come up. But you can't, the only person that you can expect anything from is usually yourself. Otherwise, you have to be kind of pretty open to other people. And that's the other thing, is to keep an open heart. So, most of us often want, it's challenging to be vulnerable and to be real and to be yourself sometimes, um, with other people. And there are some people that you learn that it's not safe to be that way with, and that's an important recognition as well, that you want to find people that you can be um, open and feel safe with. And I mean, for me, I tend to be somebody that I will trust you until you give me a reason not to. And like we think of the fool, that's sort of how I will be with people, because I'm so open and loving and caring. Um, I mean, not all the time, but a lot of the time. But I've also noticed in the past few years that I've also been very discerning and not needing as many friends and people in my life. Now, you want people and that's good, but I want quality friends, you know what I mean? Like the ones that are people that you can really, grow with and have an experience that is expansive and learning for both of you. It's it's interesting, it is important to have some of those people though, because we can tend to go inward, especially when you're going through things, um, and dealing with a lot of stuff. We may not interact with people, and there's times where that's important, but then there's also a phase where you need to go back out and you need to interact with people. And it's okay if it doesn't go great all the time, because that's how we learn. That's how we um, figure out the things within ourselves that we would never be able to figure out if we were not interacting with other people. There are just certain things, like you can heal some things, you can work on things within yourself, you can be with yourself, you can create things, but you can create more when you interact with other people. So it's important to have those relationships and not turn away from people at all, which a lot of people, as they're going through, quote unquote, an awakening, or, recognizing, going through moments of like shadow work and working things out within yourself, that a lot of people don't resonate with you the same way that they used to. So now it's sort of like you're upgrading your life into like a new set of people, and or, person, depending on how many people you have in your life. But there's it's important that we do recognize those times when, okay, it's time to go out, it's time to be with people, and be okay with being vulnerable and being yourself and being authentic. And if it doesn't work, well, if it doesn't work out the way you want, or if it doesn't feel good, then those probably aren't your people, right? So, but how are you going to know if you don't try, right? So, yeah. So, another thing that was coming up for me that I wanted to bring up was listening and trying to understand other people. I was just noticing in some of my um, interactions with my friends that there were times where, they're telling you something and they're wanting to get their point across, and then your mind starts going in a different direction of something that they're saying sparks in your mind, and that can be a good segue into a conversation. And it is important that you understand where they're trying to come from, because if we're going in and we're just changing the subject on someone when they're in the middle of sharing something, then oftentimes, you're just talking at each other, and you're missing the mark. You're missing the ebb and the flow of the relating. So, um, it's important to be able to listen and figure out when is the right moment to bring things up, if it even is. I mean, sometimes those things that I think of are meant for just me, but sometimes they are meant to be shared with the other person. And a lot of times that comes up as an intuitive knowing in me, and I just sort of interject it. Um, and it's hard to know when is it the right time to do that. And the only way you know is if you do it and then see how it feels. Because sometimes it works out something that needed to be worked out within you, and then sometimes it sparks new understandings or in the other person, or you guys like take this leap in a whole new direction of um, thoughts and ideas and connections that you have together. So it's um it's an interesting balance to figure that out, right? When you're doing it. So my favorite is when I have, a friend or a group of friends that I'm speaking with, and there's this beautiful natural flow that comes up where you're interacting and they're sharing and you're sharing, and something they said takes you to a point, and then you take them to a point, and then what's really fun is later, you talk to that person later and you find out, you're like, yeah, you said this to me when we were talking the other day, and it later on, like, I don't know, that next day, during the next week or something comes up, and we've completely shared something that was so profound that the other one needed to hear, that we didn't really understand it in the moment, but then later it was like, "Oh, that's what Daphne was saying," or, "Oh, that's what my friend was saying to me." And it's funny, it goes both ways where, they get something out of it and I get something out of it, and then when we come back together and we talk again, it's like there's a whole new, understanding and a growth that that we're going through together. So it feels like when I'm talking about the new way, this feels like part of the new way of co-creating and interacting with people, is that intuitive conversation that you have of sharing things that each other needs to hear, or didn't even know they needed to hear in the moment, and later on, it's just so profound. And I mean, we can have that in other areas of our life. Like if you're watching a video, or, You see a show on TV and somebody says something, we have these like realizations and these epiphanies. But when you have it in like a one-on-one friendship, or, like a group um, of people that you connect with, it's it's beautiful, it's powerful, it's meaningful, and you just for me, I just don't I feel like, "Oh, I'm not the only one doing this," because it's not like everyone in my life that I'm friends with or that I work with or whatever have that same. I mean, sometimes we do, but yeah, there's just certain friendships and relating that you go through with certain people that's super powerful. So, um, I encourage you to go find your people and to um, have some of these moments. Trying to think. I mentioned at the beginning being in your own power. So it's really important that we recognize that so we can, um, we're not relying on other people to um, give us things we need. Really, we're giving it to ourselves. I love saying, be your own best friend. You know, enjoy what you do on your own, do things you enjoy, take care of yourself first, always, so that when you do come together with other people, uh, then you have this you don't have these expectations, like I said, like you need somebody to like fill this hole within yourself. That's not what um well, I mean, you can do what you want. Obviously, there's like all this codependency and stuff that we can go through, and some of us have, right? But if you can be complete within yourself and be taking care of yourself, enjoying your experience, doing things for yourself, then when you come together with others, it's easier to be in that relating space, that ease and flow and just caring and fun and carefree and not feeling like you're taking offense to things or you're reacting to things. That's sort of something for us to try to move out of, I guess, so to speak. I think, am I going to stop it here? How long have we been going? We're going about 22 minutes. Yeah, I did have another thing that I might, but I think I'm going to forgo that one. I think I might talk about that. Eh, okay. Maybe we'll talk about it. One of the other things that I have been working on, I don't know, like for a couple years now, is it's kind of like a conundrum or a dilemma for me. Like when I'm interacting with other people, and this is part of who I am, of wanting to help people, wanting to, um, I mean, that's the excuse I give, right? That I want to help people. But there's times where we look at other people and we think, oh, we have sort of ideas and notions that maybe they should be doing something differently or this could help them. And yeah, it's hard, especially when you're intuitive and you can, like, see things beyond this time space, and you really have, um, ways you think you can help them. It's if you haven't been asked for help, that's a hard one for me because there are close relationships that you have with people where, you can step in and offer help and guidance, and it's not always wanted, right? I mean, we've all done that. We've all gone out and said something or done something, and people, they just they won't be able to hear it, in that moment, and that's fine. It's really not if you're doing that, I try to have this no expectation, like I said. It's just offering help. Oftentimes, I will say something that isn't completely, totally clear that plants seeds to people, but those are usually people that are really unconscious of things. But with my, more conscious friends, I just well, even no matter who it is, all of my friends, it's just this dilemma that I've gone through. So then I start thinking about it. I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, is that a form of control?" We're talking about control and or I was saying, notice how control comes up in your life. And yeah, it kind of is. I mean, even if you have a good intention or you think you're doing it for the best reasons, which you could be, but there's a fine line of figuring out when people need to live their own life and when to step in and give guidance. And um, so I thought of that. I was like, okay, well, is that controlling? And then I thought, it's kind of a moral dilemma on if you say anything or not. I mean, depending on what it is, there's so many intricacies to relating with other people. So you really have to go within and feel if it's the right thing to do or not. And if it's not the right thing to do, you'll find that out. And then that's just another little piece of information that helps guide you in the next time that you come into that situation. Um, but there's so many perspectives here. So it's like, do I tell them this? Is that taking away their free will? Is that trying to change them? Is that trying to control them? So you have to like kind of watch those things as that comes up. At least that's what I was reflecting and being introspective about for myself in these situations. Um, but yeah, there's just so many things that go into this. So you just have to kind of like pay attention within yourself. How does it feel? Remember we were talking about how does it feel? A lot of times you get the answer from how is it feeling in your body? Like, does it feel expansive and open for me to do this or not? And then oftentimes I'll say something and then afterwards I'm like, "Eh," and I contract and I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. But there's always a message in these things. So it's like I always go back to myself. Okay, it's a learning process for myself. If I don't say it at the right time, or maybe that wasn't the right thing to say, or maybe it was meant to say and it just was uncomfortable, right? How many times do we just feel uncomfortable with addressing things with other people? It can be hard, it's not always easy, but it can be important when you're trying to be authentic and do things in a way where you're caring for other people. So then I started thinking about it. Well, there's also these things called soul agreements where we come in here to help each other with different things. And so, like, it may have been a soul agreement for me to say something to that person. And then I had this uncomfortable moment, and then we're both getting something from it. So there's so many different things going on. So if you feel intuitively guided to do it, I say do it, even if it's hard, even if it's uncomfortable. Usually there's a lesson in it for yourself and possibly the other person. And then a lot of times you end up closer. And if you don't end up closer, then that might not be the person that's meant to um be in your life at that time. And if they are, they'll come back around. You never know. But yeah, the thing that I wanted to end on though, the most important thing that I was recognizing, and this is like the whole important moment of the podcast is right here. I feel like the true path and the biggest message I got out of all of this realizations I've been having over the last few weeks is um, the true path to reducing separation and distortion in yourself and others is in acceptance and loving, whether it's yourself or the other person for who they are, um, in each moment. And it can change. Um, we're not this stagnant being that always have to be one way, especially as we're healing and growing. And you may or may not have noticed this, but it feels like I'm a completely different person than I was 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago. It just, things have been changing. It feels like, so things can change within us very quickly. Um, and like I said, there feels like there's an acceleration of growth. So, yeah, it's accept people for where they are, love them for where they are. That's the most important thing. And yeah, I hope you guys are paying attention to your bodies, taking some deep breaths. Maybe set your timer throughout the day to sit and feel into yourself and notice how you're feeling, taking some deep breaths, taking yourself back within you, because life gets busy and we end up doing so many different things. And it's important to bring yourself back into you. So, that being said, I love you guys, and I will see you on the next one. Please like, comment, share if it resonates. And yeah, have a good week. Bye.